excuse me. I've mentioned this before, but every minute we record takes 3 times as long to edit. So if it's an hour, it's going to take 3 hours. If
Okay.
it's 2 hours, it's going to take 6 hours. You understand what I'm saying here?
Yes.
So the reason we do these so infrequently is because the recording is fine, but the editing of little minutia and background noise is such a pain in my ears that I get sick of listening to it.
And yourself?
I never get sick of listening to myself. I started a goddamn podcast where I'm the main guy. You don't get sick of yourself, mister. I make 5 videos a week.
Actually, I increased the rate of the video, so it's actually going to be close to 10 a week.
The hell is wrong with you?
Schedule.
Merry Christmas. This is the internet's worst gaming podcast. I am your host, Loki Jarson. With me again is my real life brother, Thomas, aka L0rd Masta, on YouTube and elsewhere.
Hello there, Mr. Loki Jarson, sir.
Let's not waste any time. Let's just get right to it. You as usual for these recordings, have prepared a list of topics, and I have done absolutely zero research whatsoever. I do no preparation for this show. That's how it works out so well.
Well, let me tell you something, Loki Jarson. I've been busy for the past couple of months.
I can imagine.
Because it's going to be a variety of show sorts that we have here. We're going to start off with Imperator Rome, one of the games from Paradox Interactive.
Hmm?
So, Imperator Rome, I've been doing a ongoing video series where I'm playing as the Greek city-state of Thebes, which is still part of the old Menander update. And there's this upcoming update coming up by, say, January or February, sometime in the winter of 2021. That we should
It is
say.
very likely. It is very likely this is going to be the last episode of the year, because there's no way this comes out before Christmas. So let's just make this our year-end extravaganza.
Hell yes. Oh, I almost said another word, so I got to stop myself right there. Anyways, Imperator Rome, Marius. That's the name of the update that's coming up, Marius. Named after the Roman who made the Marian reforms. Are you familiar with that?
No.
It happened around after the second or third Punic War, I forget which, but Marius was the guy who came up with the Marian reforms. It was military reforms for the Roman Republic's military, because, you know, they had to transition from their way of fighting that they've been doing for the last couple of times to
Standing out in the field in a line, throwing rocks.
yes, into the more of the old Roman legion system that we're all familiar with from the late Republic, early Roman Empire era.
Standing in a line, holding a spear.
Yeah, that kind of discipline.
So presumably this update is all about military things.
Largely, and also they have this other little themed update, as I read it from the dev diaries for the past couple of months, since October, I should say, since I was pretty much way into CK3, Crusader Kings 3, which we'll get into that in a moment, where they have the other themed update called Vitruvius, which I don't know who that particular Roman individual is.
That guy is also, I think he made a canal, not a canal, but an irrigation system. Built a big canal. Canal's not the right word, but there's a big aqueduct. That's the word. Built a big old aqueduct.
Yeah. The Vitruvius update is the one that focuses on building or existing or building new great wonders. Yeah, kind of similar to the great works from the Crusader Kings 2 on its last few updates, when they focused on building wonders. So now you could do that here. But here in Marius, yes, it's mainly military. which they are gonna rework some of the UI, the user interface. So, I mean, based on the preview images I saw for that upcoming update, it does not resemble the game I've been currently playing. It just looks like an entirely new game, built from
Hmm.
scratch.
When did this game first come out?
Imperator Rome, April
Hmm.
25th last year, 2019.
Yeah, it's already a pretty big change.
So yeah, it's due to, well, mixed reviews when it came out at first, and then over time it got better and better, and it looks like it's going to be their biggest update yet. I mean, all games go
Man,
through that.
yeah, I realize we're not going to talk about this, but that's a hell of a statement during the times that we're recording about this, that we could dare to wait for a game to be updated to be better.
Uh, Either that or just, well, let's go make an entirely new game 1 year later instead of, you know, having it for many, many
Well,
years.
they publish other games that they don't just make, right? Like they make strategy games and publish those, but they also publish a bunch of things that aren't strategy games, but they don't develop them.
Uh-huh. And
So
that,
they can.
and that's why for this Vitruvius update and the Marius update, Paradox Interactive decided to form its own separate studio so it can focus more towards this particular game, as the rest of them were all about Crusader Kings 3.
Well, it's a bigger, more popular game.
Yeah, in terms of popularity, much like I found out when I post Imperator Rome videos, I'm actually one of the three most popular. And I'm the only one who serves for the English speaking audience. I'm the only American.
It's a bit presumptuous, but it's not an easy game to get into. There's a higher learning curve from what little I understand of this game, as opposed to CK3. Like you need to know more of what you're doing. You can't bumblefuck your way through it.
Yeah. But anyways, back to the update. The UI changes, and they're also gonna rework the inventions system with the introduction of tech trees. Because back then in this, well, at least the current version that I've been playing for the last three series, like to get inventions, you got to spend your money on it, your state funds to get the inventions. But however, the price increases the more territory you expand to the point like, man, you would just love to have this invention or that invention, but you can't spend it all. Well, they're going to rework that by having tech trees as it progresses over time, as it should be. Because
Okay.
that's how technology marches on, right? With time.
In strategy games, absolutely. You can just wait instead of, die.
Or buy it off. But uh, but they're going to have several warfare changes, such as the combat with forts and occupation, as well as provincial trading and engineering cohorts. So engineer cohorts, as in like these guys who, well, do siege work, siegecraft, so to speak. Which in the current version I've been playing, the way to besiege a territory or a fort or a city that has a fort on it, well, you just gotta sit there and wait for dice rolls so the percentage increases time after time until they surrender. Sometimes sieges can last between 180 days up to a year, 360. Sometimes even longer, depending on the level of the fort, the dice roll. But I've had way shorter sieges when we got lucky when the overall territory has low food and the garrison can't feed itself, so they just have to desert already. And and they also gonna change more of the military traditions, nation overviews and whatnot for the little macro builder, which I never really do that because I just like having more detail of it rather than a little mini thing. And they're gonna be separating the difference between levies and legions, because in the versions that I've been playing, you just have standing armies as military units, right? Regardless of cohorts. Now they're gonna do away with that and just have levies instead. Like, you know how levy works?
You've explained on a previous episode, yes.
Yes. But the legion system's not gonna go away entirely. Where in much, well, I would say second half of an average playthrough, that that the legions will start appearing. We don't necessarily mean Roman legions. We just use that as a general term for standing army. Um, so that's not until a later era where you get more professional armies. And also they're going to be adding more 3D unit models, so you know more detail of units of various cultures, such as the Italics, Greeks, Iberians, Carthaginians, and further east.
In theory, you could do all of this in text, so I guess that's good.
Yeah, so you can tell the difference between a levy and a legion. Like I saw a picture
I
where,
would assume a legion has armor and a levy doesn't. That's how it works.
yeah, just picture like your average Roman legion on one side, but the Roman levy, they're lightly armored and they have a wolf pelt head.
I'm trying to think of a Roman legionnaire. Oops, I accidentally thought of a Spartan.
Yeah, the horse head hairs or whatever they call
Yeah,
it.
I was imitating your average player slash moviegoer slash Hollywood director
Uh, yeah, of
slash
the
football team mascot.
sword and sandals. Um, and also coming along with the Marius update, they will have a separate DLC called Heirs of Alexander, which is going to be adding more mission trees. Because you know how we mentioned the last time with Imperator Rome, we mentioned about every country has its own set of missions, like Rome, Carthage, Athens, Sparta, and Syracuse.
Hmm.
Well, they're going to be adding more, but it's for the Diadochi nations, the successors of Alexander's empire that was separated.
Much like Crusader Kings has less and less to do with the Crusade, Imperator Rome has less and less to do with Rome.
Yeah, more Greek stuff. Can't get enough of it. And yet, people still request, how about mission trees for Bactria, which is a Greek satrapy to the Seleucids,
So the real question
or even
is,
the Mauryans, the Indian Empire. Let's have missions for them too. They're important in that history.
when are they going to spin off into? It's obviously not going to be called Imperator, but whatever the Greek game is, where you play as Athenian and/or Spartan and do basically the same stuff.
I know one example, but it's more of a mobile game and set, well, during and after the Peloponnesian War. They have something like that. But again, mobile game. So yeah, they add mission trees for the Seleucids, which I mentioned before. Also for the Antigonid Kingdom, Egypt, Thrace, and Macedon. Those are the Diadochi nations that broke away from Alexander's old empire when he died. And so now you get to play any of those playthroughs, and you got your own set of missions to, well, try to one up another to see like who is the true successor to Alexander the Great.
And presumably you can kill the other ones and take over their lands.
Yeah, basically. Or just, well, I can predict most people when the update comes out. Most of them will be playing the Diadochi nation, and I assume there will always be one playing as the titular nation, Rome.
When is this update coming out? This is part of the same thing.
I assume January, because they've been doing dev diaries for most of the months of fall and into December, and they've taken a break, and then they'll start posting dev diaries again, so we'll know more information on when the release date comes out. I assume January of 2021.
And you'll make some sort of video then when that update happens.
Oh yeah, as soon as I'm done with the Thebes update and my first nation that I will be playing as, which isn't a surprise. It's going to be another Greek city-state, but not any of the Diadochi, not Rome, not Carthage. Think small. I'm expected to play as Athens for the Marius update, because would it be great to see Athens make a comeback after, well, it got beaten by the Spartans after the Peloponnesian War, and then historically they rose up again, then they got beaten again, and they rose up again, and then they got beaten again, and rose up one more time.
Okay, I'm gonna cut you off there. I don't have any horse in that race in particular, so it doesn't bother me none.
So yeah, this upcoming Athenian series should be just mainly about let's make one last comeback before we may or may not get annihilated for the final time, and reform the Delian League and maybe all of Greece.
Well, best of luck with that.
Mm-hmm. So now we got Imperator Rome out of the way, and from one update to another, Crusader Kings 3, the other noted Paradox Interactive game, had an update on its own, but not as big as what Imperator Rome has planned. But it's something that they've made note of that ever since its release, and they said they were going to add that in the future, and now they finally added. That update is Ruler Designer, which was once a separate DLC you can buy for Crusader Kings 2, but now it's a free update here in CK3.
And this goes beyond what we talked previously about setting the traits and all that stuff.
I mean, you have your limitations. Well, actually, there are limitations to a degree in Ruler Designer. If you wish to start a new playthrough with any territory or faction that you wish to start playing as, and then you decide to create your own ruler and dynasty and whatnot. And that's what Ruler Designer does. It's basically create a character, but for your first, well, your founder of your dynasty, that's your created character, and be descends that from then on. And you can be, there's no restrictions of what culture or faith you be playing as, but there's one limit to it, but that's only if you wish to. Like, say, if you're going to do an Iron Man mode playthrough, which is how you get achievements, they give you this number of points of whatever traits or statistics you're going to adjust, including the age of the character. Like, if you're going to be really young, well, it's less points. But if you're going to be adult to middle age, like, say, all the way up to 40, that's when points will increase. And if you wish to go 40 plus, that's when points start to go down in terms of how much you're going to be using. Just don't go over the limit of 400, otherwise you won't get achievements. So in theory, you could create a superly overly powered character if you're going to be, doing a gameplay, but you don't get the achievements for it. Only if you're playing the Iron Man.
Well, one, who really cares about PC achievements for one? And two, this only works for one character, right? It's not in every ruler designer. So
Oh,
as soon as you cack off your heir who doesn't have these god points,
oh no. Unless you chose the traits that are inheritable, even if it's good or bad. But
it's
some,
it's
but
it's
sometimes it
very
may.
strange to me that a strategy game is asking you to think about something far down the line. Like you create this king who gives a shit, and is like, and his son who gives a shit junior, and his son who gives a shit the third. But you have no control at the present time of who gives a shit the third. You can only control the first king.
Uh, yes,
So
and
it's like, okay, so you want to pair off your heir with to give him this stuff down the line, and if you're lucky, he survives with all those things, so he can give his stuff further down the line. It's a very strange way of. This is less kingdom building and more family building.
yeah, like how we discussed the differences between Imperator and Crusader Kings.
Yeah. Crusader Kings is slowly becoming an RPG for some reason.
Yeah, we've discussed that in great detail on the
Yeah.
previous podcast with the role playing aspect.
Yeah.
But as for the character creation, you can make adjustments of, well, basically any part of your face and body um, for either male or female. And so, yes, you can adjust any body part of it.
So if you wanted to have like one long arm,
Oh, well, not to that degree, but however, there is an interesting little statistic. Like you can adjust the prowess skill, which is personal combat skill. If you would wish to increase it, your character increases muscle mass.
well, duh, because I'm good at fighting. I mean, buffer.
Or choose an inheritable trait that'll make your character strong anyhow. Genetically strong.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that also increases it. Um, and
I,
not
I,
and plus you can actually create the character. You can start from the age of, well, 0 all the way to 120.
who would want to start as an old man? How long is that playthrough going to last?
Probably not last a minute. I don't know why you want to be a decrepit old man.
It's what I'm saying. It's like, what kind of game are you guys building here?
Um, and also, I probably sent you, well, didn't send you anything, but just showed you pictures of some people with their own creative characters from that game, either resembling celebrities or historical figures that they're trying to pull off.
The only real issue, and I know you want to branch off, but the only real issue I have
Yeah,
with CK3,
we'll branch off more to the creative character in just a moment.
before I get to that, the only issue I have with it in CK3 in particular is, again, you're only designing the one guy. You're
Yeah,
not designing his heirs. So you're spending, 30 minutes making the best face for King who gives a shit. And then, two, say, 50 years down the line, he's dead. Do you get to design King of Gives a Shit's kid? No, of course not.
No, you just only educate them, or send them off a guardian to educate.
So what is the point in designing your ruler? You're not designing your dynasty. You're designing one dude who will die. That's the point of the game.
Even if your heir that looks like the father.
Eh.
So, so again, the ruler design that I did, which was the very first playthrough with the said update when I'm doing this ongoing series with Bosnia, which is something I wanted to do for some time. It's just, well, there was the main reason why I used a ruler designer for this playthrough. One, it's to create a native Bosnian character instead of who was already controlling that area at that time of 867 AD, which is just by Serbian. So we just needed somebody to appeal to that minority culture, which isn't much, but somebody's got to govern it, otherwise they'll be having peasant revolts. And plus, my guy kind of looked like Philip II, if you ever seen pictures of him, the one-eyed guy who's father of Alexander. Which, to be fair, they had a set of own cultural ethnicities, just saying average. Like a northern guy, like it means applies to all Norseman-looking guys, or Western Europeans, regardless if you're
Sure,
Anglo-Saxon, French.
like when you play Skyrim, you're like, I want to be a Nord. Okay, well, you're gonna look like a guy who's like a fucking Viking. That's just how it's gonna be. Sorry.
But for the South Slavic people, which is what the Bosnian belong to that group, they use Mediterranean. In other words, they're Greek-looking rather than Slavic-looking.
So they're darker of skin?
You can actually adjust the skin tone, so it is possible for you to play as a black Anglo-Saxon man. But
Eh.
but culturally, you're just of them. But it doesn't matter what skin color that you choose.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like, why are you wasting all this time making this dude? It is one thing, like last time we talked, it's one thing to set your traits to make inheritable traits. It is a completely different waste of time to set your looks. You can't inherit all those looks.
Yeah, and by the way, as of those looks, I chose that created character to have one-eyed.
Yeah, you mentioned.
Because, well, it's for the dread. The dread feature just to gotta keep them in line. So they don't, try to plot against me. Because I made this guy a one-eyed, callous, deceitful, but gregarious man. Because we start off as Slavic pagan, which gregarious is actually one of the virtues.
So you made a pirate.
Oh yeah, he became a raider. To the point where he raided so much he picked up the raider trait. Viking is an equivalent for those of the Asatru faith up there. Except we didn't go off sea because we didn't live in a coast.
Because you were in fucking Bosnia and Croatia.
Yeah, it's all hills and mountains up there. Poor developed area. So we had to raid our neighbors to not only get loot, but sometimes bring slaves to help develop our country. So it doesn't have to be a backwater country. But unfortunately, it will remain so throughout most of the playthrough because of this faith that we've been playing as after conversion, which we played as the Christiani faith. That's Krstjani. Christiani.
Because you enjoy putting weird restrictions on your playthroughs.
Well, the three tenets of the Christiani faith, which is what makes them different from Catholics and Orthodox, despite the fact that they're wedged between them. It's because of the three tenets it has: mendicant preachers, monasticism, and pastoral isolation. Monasticism is common, monks and nuns, we know that stuff. And mendicant preachers just means that, guys who like to go around, converting folks out there, which makes them more faster to convert. And the pastoral isolation feature has its benefits and it's a bit of a handicap. The handicap part is less development growth. In other words, it's going to remain a poor country for some time unless you put some effort to it or wait for events that encourages development growth.
Or steal other countries' resources.
Yeah, until we get the cultural innovations up, which adds more minimum penalty for development. You could say this land has reached to its fullest potential until we go to another medieval era where we'll finally have more development growth. And we'll be right up there with Rome, Constantinople, or most of India with their higher developed countries. So, and finally, the Christianity faith is unique that It views all Christian faiths, regardless of doctrinal differences, as righteous. Whereas to everybody else, they just view Christianity as a stray. Like Catholics and Orthodox don't look highly on them, while Christianity's like, you're all my brothers, so we're all nice to you.
I'd imagine Catholics and Eastern Orthodox don't look kind on any other religion other than their own.
Oh no. But there is one thing that Christianity has, as with most of the others, and that's they have ecumenism. Without ecumenism, then that would mean a Christian would view one that does not have it as hostile, and thus making them targets for holy wars, even crusades. But there is a decision which the AI's yet to pull off against me, as of a Christianity ruler, where they would tell their religious head, either the Pope or Ecumenical Patriarch, to declare Christianity as a heresy, and we would lose ecumenism, and thus we became, well, public enemy number one in the heart of Europe. It's yet to happen. And so for now, our faithful Gosti, which means guest in Bosnian, that's what we called our inheritors, Gosti. You're my guests. And they call their bishops Jedi, not Jedi, Jedi, which means grandfather.
Okay.
And the actual historical Bosnian church, that's what Christianity is, since resources are limited on how they functioned on their everyday life. But they say the clergy don't really do anything. They never really interfered on anybody's affairs except attending funerals for, burial rituals, and they don't do much of anything else. And hardly even taken in one's court as advisors. So basically, they just like to be left alone. Hence the reason, pastoral isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that's what makes this ongoing Bosnian playthrough unique. Oh, and finally, for the particular faith, it's unique compared to the other ones that all of their crime doctrines, say same-sex relations, male and female adultery, kinslaying, deviancy, and witchcraft, they're all shunned, not criminal for some, neither accepted like the Eastern ones. So in other words, no matter what bad thing you do, it's basically just wagging a finger. It's like, don't do that, but they're not going to put you in jail for it.
So why would these dudes have an empire ever?
Bosnia never had an empire.
Why would your faith ever had an empire ever?
Because of this tolerance and isolationism?
Yeah.
No idea. Again, sources are limited. We don't know what the hell they've done.
No, buddy. No. Not real life shit. You as this Cristiano Ronaldo faith, in the middle of fucking Eastern Europe, want to build an empire taking over all of Europe.
I don't know. We just went with it. But there may or may not be a time where we may have to create a separate Christian faith, a schism, if you will, from the Christianity, just to change one little tenet, one little modification, and then all will be well. And then we could start, being up with, in the league with a family of nations of highly developed countries.
By killing your neighbors and taking their stuff.
That's going to have to happen because we've been basically content with where we are, but now, as of the last recording, we're going to be on a point of expanding both west and east, particularly just in the lands of former Yugoslavia, all the way up to Bulgaria, Wallachia, and even Moldavia, because there's this other goal that says unite the South Slavs. Basically, create greater Yugoslavia, which people back in the 1910s once came up with the idea, but never fully utilized.
Well, because there are too many fucking religions there. That's why they didn't do it.
Yeah, and, well, it's still a sensitive subject to this day, the Yugoslav wars and everything.
I would imagine we don't have a lot of Croatian-speaking listeners. It's already a half hour. Do you want to talk about this face thing?
What faith?
Face. You said something with the character creator more.
Oh, yes, the creating faces, making faces. Yeah. Anyways, you said something about you already made
I said
of your the goddamn. Okay, I just hit myself in the head, so I know where I'm talking about. Okay, the creative character in games in general. You had a little tripe, if that's a word that we can use.
Tripe. A tripe is a fish.
Really?
Yes. Do you mean gripe?
Gripe. There you go. I missed the letter. Um, the
Missed several letters.
Yeah, that's just in general. Whether if it's again, it's not just
Well, okay.
faces and
How
body.
long? How long did you spend making your dude? Time
Oh,
start to start.
oh, 20 minutes. It wasn't that long because I just keep hitting the randomize button until see where it hits. I'm like, okay, I like that, but let me make one small adjustment, and then there we go.
Okay,
And
that's
also
different.
have no eye, just one eye.
That's different than what I thought you were gonna say. Is 20 minutes adjusting his fucking mustache hairs, which a lot of people do.
So yeah, it's almost like a little bit of Skyrim in terms of options to create a character
See,
when
but
adjusting faces.
here's my problem in every fucking it's mostly RPGs because normal action adventure games don't let you. They have a set protagonist. They don't let you adjust them. I get bored. It's just like, okay, I have fucking with this dude's eyebrows for like a minute. I was like, I don't care anymore. I, I've lost the will to give a shit. Years and years of RPGs have made me adjust customizable characters less and less. Like I used to do it a ton, and now years later, I'm like, I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna go for default because I'd much rather play the game than dick around with someone who's I'm only gonna look at the back of their head for the most of the game if it's third person, and if it's a first person, I'm literally never going to see their face. So who gives a fuck what they look like?
Yeah, you just be looking at your ass more.
Yes, what's the bloody point? Can I adjust my butt? Can I, it's one thing to change the back of your head. Again, if it's a third person game. If it's a first person game, there's 0 point whatsoever in making your face all different. Cool. I'm gonna edit that out so we don't seem sexist. Uh, but even that is like, okay, well, okay. Instead of making a dude character, I'm gonna make a lady character. Okay. Here's her hair. Okay, let's change the color of her hair. And do I want to get? Oh, I'm bored. Let me get to the game. I can't just sit around in character creation menus because I take too long in the skill tree menus again if it's an RPG.
And also, you're probably not that creative when it comes to resembling somebody or your ideal
What
character.
I have had discussions before with the two other guys who used to do this show, Joe Sizzy and Rob.
You almost said Ryan.
Rob, sure, Rob Ryan, the former defensive coordinator. Um, I've had discussions with them about whether or not when they make a character, do they make it try to make it look like themselves or give it their name. And I've literally never done that in my entire life. Going all the way back,
Nor you
going all
would
the way
be
back from
willing.
like KOTOR because I'm not that character. It's I don't want to spend time making a character looking like me or sounding like me. Do you remember? This will be the best reference for you and you alone. That episode of Seinfeld where George is like, "Oh my God, I don't want to read this book. I wish I had a book on tape."
Yeah.
And so he gets a book on tape, but the guy is a whiny voice just like him, and he's like risk management or some shit, and he's like, "Oh man, I can't listen to this. The guy sounds exactly like me." That's how I feel. I don't want to play as a dude who looks or sounds exactly like me. That's not the experience I come here for in video games. I don't come to play video games to make a dude look and or sound like me. It's not something I'm interested in.
Uh-huh. Um, whereas in Crusader Kings, there ain't no voices. Um, Obviously.
I know, but it's like, okay, you made your dude super fat. Okay, whoops, he died of obesity in 20 years. Here's your heir. Can you adjust anything in this heir? No. Waste of time.
Uh-huh. You just start off from scratch and whatever lifestyle points that they give you or lack thereof or what
Yes,
came
but
with
my
it.
point is my point is you can't adjust the appearance of any heir. So it's pointless.
Uh-huh. And finally, prior to the ruler designer update for the boss series, you know what was my last created character from Crusader Kings 2?
Hmm.
It was from my final series, the Sogdian Saga, where it was a female character that I created. Again, it had limitations of creations, just only in the face, right? And, in which I created this character, which goes by the name of Rokshana Kayani, or Kayanian. Again, this may all sound Iranian culture foreign to you, um, which I actually based that character, even slightly resembling the character Rey from the Star Wars sequel trilogy. There you go.
I've seen your. I'm gonna cut you off. I'm sorry. I've seen your characters in various Elder Scrolls games and various Red Dead games and GTA games. And you make a certain kind of character kind of consistent. I won't speak of it. You make a certain kind of character styling fairly consistent.
Yeah.
So I assume this was not that.
No, because Iranian culture, you know what the average Middle Eastern person looked like, right?
Well, I know the stereotype.
Yeah, but not to a Sogdian, which is a near extinct culture to this day. They're still around, go by a different name. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, Roxana Kayani, again, not only based her appearance slightly based on Rey, but as well as the personality and traits of her when we were first introduced to her in The Force Awakens. In other words, yeah, she's a diligent, nice person, but over time it changes a bit due to the circumstances that mandates it, due to, well, being a Sogdian Zoroastrian living under Arabian occupation of Sogdia.
Why do you like to make these unnecessarily complicated choices in these games?
Like what you may gain or
Like a
lose.
minor, no. Like every in Crusader Kings or Imperator Rome, you're always like, okay, I made a little known culture in a little known religion in a little known kingdom, and I'm going to take over all of Europe.
It's to get attention because there's some minorities out there that needs some spotlight on it.
They're long dead. These kingdoms don't exist anymore for a reason.
And the Sogdian people, as we mentioned here, they never gained independence. The only heyday they ever had was during the 6th century to 7th century AD when they had their own city states. Kind of functioned like Greek city states, except middle of the Silk Road, because they were a proud merchant race and really not known for their martial prowess. Um, and finally, regarding Roxana,
You said finally about 5 times now, by the way.
sorry, it's a habit of mine. For Roxana or Roxana, as we call her in the West, um, of the last name Kayani or Kayanian, it was named after a semi mythological dynasty of Persian tradition and folklore.
What
Supposed,
the hell, semi-mythological? It is or it isn't.
so they said they were mentioned in the Avesta, the sacred Zoroastrian texts, and also part of the Shahnameh, which is Iran's national epic. And the story of the Sogdian saga at the beginning is, again, similar to what I came up with because I had Rey in mind. That Roxana is the last of the Kayanians that lived in obscurity, and it's going to be the first of the new. You know, become that spark of a holy flame of resistance against, well, these. I don't think we would call the Abbasids an evil empire, but it depends on your interpretation of what is evil and what not from a Zoroastrian point of view. Um, so yes, there's some parallels there. I even made the character to have a legitimized bastard trait because there are no known parents. I even had a Muslim who addressed Roxanne by saying, "Damn your seventh grandfather," and I'm like, she doesn't even know her damn family.
It's an oddly specific damn.
Yeah, it's a it's the damnedest thing you ever damned, and I've damned a lot of things.
And we go all the way from Sogdia or Sogdiana to fake Los Angeles in GTA 5. There was recently a gigantic update in that however many year old game.
It's been around since 2013.
Astonishing. Uh, it's a new heist and like a new place to go to, as well as the usual bevy of new cars and game modes.
Yeah. When was the last time you've done a heist of any kind? Was it from the first of its type?
God, I can't even remember. We didn't finish them. We didn't finish either the main one. We never did the Pacific Bank, and we didn't finish the Doomsday ones. I think we did two of those. Got super frustrated, then stopped.
I never did the Doomsday heist. I heard they were super difficult, even with friends.
Unnecessary. They're unnecessarily hard.
And then came the casino heist, which you weren't there for, but I've done.
No, here's a problem with GTA, and you did not run into this problem because of who you are and how you play it.
Mhm.
GTA is, and Red Dead Online, I presume, is a game where if you don't play it for a certain amount of time, you're falling behind and you're never going to be able to catch up.
Yeah, like if you want to get this, well, you better put your time into it to make money and
I
to get
know,
that.
but I don't want to put in time to make money. Like Stacey, Rob, and I, we stopped at such a place that in order to get back into it, we'd be so far behind. We'd actually have to pay real world money for shark cards and shit to catch up to where everyone is now baseline. And I don't think any of us are really willing to do that to play what towards the end was a very frustrating game. So is this new update frustrating or fun?
Well, before we get into the Cayo Perico heist, that's the island they call over there, Cayo Perico. It's in an island off of the coast of Colombia.
That's not anywhere near fake Los Angeles.
No, not even Mexico. So yeah, it's owned by some rich guy. With
Typically.
Yeah, in which it's like yeah, and there's this. They got this big old party over there at the beach. But now during that time, it is time for you. And yes, you mean you, because you can. This is actually the first heist where you get to do it solo. But I still recommend to bring friends along.
Yeah, I assume it's really hard.
Um, what I did from my heist after all of the setups, which is a chore to do, as with most of the heist setups of the past.
Another reason we stopped playing.
Yeah, it's almost like nearly a dozen missions to do before you get to the heist itself. If you're willing to go alone, which I did. Because, I mean, there's many different ways of entry, and they've been doing this since the casino update, and that is, what is the manner that you're going to be entering into? Because in the old casino heist, like, are you going to come in guns blazing, go loud? Um, or come in with disguises? Or do it the stealth option?
I imagine no matter what you choose, it's always going to end with guns blazing because no stealth playthrough in these kinds of games ever goes perfect.
I'm sure there's people out there that have done it, but good kudos to them.
Hmm.
But I did the stealth thing at first, as far as it went from my experience. Like the entry point I went to was from this Russian submarine, which, by the way, you get to spend millions of dollars, at least like 2+ million, to buy a submarine, which is in order to for you to have the ability to do the heist, to go over there.
Hmm.
So, I came from the submarine, and so brought scuba gear to sneak into this tunnel that they have there, a sewage tunnel. So we just snuck up there and went up, and then it's like, okay, now do it as stealthily as you can, even though I bought suppressors as well. Oh, and by the way, since you're doing that stealth option, you can't have backup. And we don't mean like friends. We mean like reinforcements, mercenaries, airstrikes, all that. Because I entered that way. I didn't start off to the ass end of the island at the airfield where I can disable air defenses in order to get such reinforcements. In fact, that's how you get 80% of the reinforcements you can request. Take down their air defenses. I ain't got time for that. I'm doing the James Bond way. Well, in a way. But
What is the point?
but the stealth thing lasted for 3 minutes before it all went to hell. But it wasn't that difficult, the shootouts, the hacking, and you got the main objective. I ain't got no time to get the primary. Oh no, the primary what you got was $1 million for a specific item. Getting cash, weed, and cocaine will get you 2+ million more if you're willing to gather up more. But well, they already found me, so I got the hell out of there. And it took a while too, because the exit was the submarine, again, where I came from, except it's all the way on the other side of the sea. So it took time.
Is Lester still running these? What is the justification for you to fly to scuba all the fucking way to Colombia to rob $1 million?
Well, it's just another way to make money. But, oh, and by the way, after you complete that heist the first time, it will become hard mode active, as it says. So they increased the difficulty because, well, they are now more paranoid than ever. Oh, and plus, I didn't take out the main bad guy because, well, I was already found.
You're the main bad guy.
Yeah, but there's the guy who owns the island. He's still alive.
That's the other weird thing about the narrative, because when this game came out first a long ass time ago on at this point 2 generations of consoles ago, uh, all the heists in the main story, which by the way you still haven't played,
Oh,
are all they're all the stuff you do are all narrative, and they formulate the story. But in the multiplayer online stuff, none of these heists really have a point other than a short crippled man who looks like Danny DeVito with George Costanza shows up at your place and is like, "Hey, you want to steal some weed?" And you do that, and then you just do that over and over and over until you have a fortified government bunker and you're firing orbital laser cannons and whatnot. But it's like I kind of lost the narrative thread there. So when you're talking about the main bad guy, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? This is so far beyond when we stopped playing.
Well, the Doomsday heist, you got to save the fucking world, and
I'll take your word for it, because all
and
we ever saw during those heists were Steve Jobs wannabe, or actually it was more of a Mark Zuckerberg wannabe, some dumb government lady, some dumb government dude, and then we really lost the thread after that submarine mission because it was not fun.
and uh, and a casino heist. Well, when the casino update came out, they had its own little separate story missions that you could do. Um, but however, bad guys won at the end, and the casino heist story is, well, let's get back at them by robbing them blind or loud, depending on how you want to approach it.
I presume it's just Ocean's 11, but with more gunfire.
Yeah, and now here, same deal. We're just gonna rob this son of a bitch off of his island, and if you happen to see him, kill him, and you're gonna get a reward. Which I didn't, because I was already found, and I had to get the hell out of there.
Can you explain to me, as a guy who plays both of these games, why they continue to update GTA 5, a very old game at this point, and there's so little drip feed content for Red Dead 2, and Red Dead 2 online updates are like, here's a new bear you can hunt.
Oh, yeah, the legendary animals, and also recently added more legendary bounties for the bounty hunter role.
I know, but that's all you ever do. You do one of two things in Red Dead Online. You hunt a person or hunt an animal, and that is it.
Whatever keeps. There's got to be words for it. You know how they had their own separate team to be dedicated to keep this game alive, and wondering if the same thing's
I
happening for Red
guess.
Dead. Much like I
Yeah,
told you early
but
in the
it is very clear that they put more effort into the GTA stuff than they do in the Red Dead stuff.
Yeah, with the amount of content it has, and still adding to this day.
And they're still going to be adding because they're going to port it to next gen at some point, 2021.
That game's never gonna die.
It's like Skyrim. We're just waiting for the countdown to the PS5 version of Skyrim. Actually, the Series X version of Skyrim, since Microsoft now owns Bethesda.
Uh, who knows? We'll see 10th anniversary edition of GTA 5 in
Yeah, it's entirely
2023.
possible. We may never see GTA 6 because they'll just keep updating GTA 5.
Yeah, it's the longest consumers keep on consuming it, which I guess I'm one of them, apparently.
Oh, yeah, but at least you never bought a shark card. You did the hard work the hard way.
Yeah, which, by the way, prior to, spending that money on a submarine and a couple of other things, I had $72 million, most money I ever had. Now I'm down to 63 as of this recording.
Oh no, how horrifying. How can you live?
Yeah, I just had an ambition. I was originally content with the money amount I have. Until I hear rumors of something, well, get to work. So now, well, not only I had such a good experience with, the new heist and everything, but again, it was short-lived because I did a heist. I'm one and done, and I'll be willing to do it again if I bring friends along. Now, this other recent experience I've been having since the said heist, and I've been doing it on late nights. Oh boy, I mean, you once spoke about it. Now I've experienced it too. The fucking Battlefield 5 campaign.
Yeah, it's bad. I don't remember. I didn't do all of it because since when they did this stupid ass like smaller war stories where it's like instead of a 5 hour game, how about 5 1 hour games? Isn't that better? No, it is in fact worse. And it is made much worse in 5 because they use multiplayer maps for the single player content. So I remember very little except for the fact that I didn't like any of it and didn't finish it. I at least finished Battlefield 1's bullshit stories.
Because you had, you originally had the patience and the
I could,
purpose.
I don't even fucking know, dude. I don't know. I don't have reasons for why I do things. I just do them.
Yeah, you were more in tune in first person shooters at that time.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. We've discussed at length my disdain for Battlefield campaigns. So you tell me about your disdain. I assume disdain considering the way you opened this segment.
Well, I just say that because, well, it was slightly lengthy than I would imagine, as you described to me once. But do you say you didn't do them all? I mean, like, as in, like, you never did the last.
Describe what you did, and I'll tell you if it triggers a memory.
Okay.
If it doesn't, then I didn't do it.
Okay, one by one story at a time.
Sure.
Much like how we told the Sogdian story earlier. Anyways, the introduction to Battlefield 5, where you jump into this person, and then you jump into that person, and then you jump into this pilot.
Cool. Don't remember.
Yeah, that was just the introduction to the game. But now the real story. Chapter 2. They go by chapters. It's the one where you play as the.
Even though they're not connected in any way.
No, they're just individuals with their own tales, allegedly, depending on who you believe, even if they're old veterans by then, as the game portrays it. You play as this British convict, gets to team up with this guy, and you are part of the SBS, the Special Boat Service. And you go to North Africa and to destroy the planes that are stationed in the hangar in the
Oh,
airfield.
fuck. I do remember that one. Yeah, that one sucked. I mean, they all sucked for different ways, but that one sucked because Battlefield's weird obsession with stealth.
Yeah, it's been that way since Hardline.
Yes, but it was well done in Hardline. It is not well done in 1 or 5. Partially because it was a different team working on it.
So my attitude of this at that time was, it's like, well, again, I know I'm very familiar with the concept of stealth. So attack this one guy with melee, then found a suppressed weapon. Okay, use it from then on out. And if you get detected, well, go out guns blazing until there is no more. And be sure to disable an alarm beforehand, otherwise there'll be reinforcements, which will kick your ass.
Because this is fucking Far Cry 3 and we just have no ideas here.
And also, and throughout the campaign, you have little to no backup.
Yeah, you have no friends whatsoever. It's like for all these dumbass war stories of World War II happenings. It's just like, well, this one dude or this one Norwegian lady killed all these Nazis by themselves. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Commando shit. The believability is probably the problem you
But
have with.
Battlefield, as opposed to Call of Duty, which is popcorn nonsense, but purposeful nonsense. Battlefield is always, whether or not they succeed, attempted to be the more realistic game. And these campaigns are not realistic.
In terms of believability, like you wouldn't believe that again this ex-convict gets to destroy planes, and then their journey continues, even holding off a goddamned tank division on their own before help finally arrived, which he accidentally called, by the way, because it gave away their position.
Very little memory. Next.
Then chapter 3, you mentioned about the Norwegian girl that took place up in Norway, Nazi-occupied Norway, where there's this, dirty bomb that the Germans are making. And to stop making the dirty bomb, you've got to stop the shipment of heavy water, which is one of the key ingredients. Again, another example of you ain't got no backup. You're on your own for this alleged commando.
And well, it's not even a commando. It's like the daughter of a commando. You're just some fucking teenage girl on skis killing 80 Nazis in a room.
As if she's got vengeance on her mind or something.
I don't even see. They try to put. Since 1, they have tried their damnedest and failed their damnedest to put emotional storytelling in these.
Yeah, I believe that one is far more emotional than the others.
No, I just don't give a fuck. It's like, because these aren't important characters. Going in, you're going to spend at tops 2 hours with these people before moving on to the next person. So what is the story they're trying to tell here? War is hell? Well, thank you, Battlefield 5. I had no idea
I was
that
about
war was
to
bad.
say. I was about to say. I was expecting the word for you to use was pretentious.
It's astonishingly pretentious, but it's short-term pretentious. It's not like I'm gonna put a fucking dollar in the jar here. It's not like Last of Us 2 where it's pretentious for 20 hours. It's 2 hours maximum. If you speed run and don't do any secondary objectives, you can get all these dumb war stories done in under an hour. So it's like all this, like, oh man, it's so tiring being here in this war. Isn't that right, War Buddy? Oh no, War Buddy has died. I am sad. Fuck off.
Yeah, compare that to 1,000 or 2,000 years ago when you mentioned strategy games back in the days when war was glorious.
That's the point of, that's what I was saying earlier. It's like, oh, you made a specific religion that likes everybody. It's like, yeah, why are you going to war then? That's the point of the fucking game. It's called Battlefield. You go into the battlefield and shoot people. The point of the Battlefield games is the multiplayer, and they tack on this awful story. For 1 year, Call of Duty said, was it Black Ops 3, right?
Something
Or
along
4,
those
excuse me.
lines.
Black Ops 4. They were like, all right, we're not going to bother with the story because no one gives a fuck, so here's the multiplayer. And because it's a Call of Duty game, everybody liked it when it came out, and then a month or two later hated it and said it was better than the way it used to be. Which leads us into, well, unfortunately, we're not done with Battlefield 5 yet, are we?
Oh no, just two more stories
Ah,
of sorts. I say of sorts because you said believability of it. It's yeah, we mentioned about the Norwegians say you don't believe that stuff. And I'm sure the Norwegian resistance done some heroic things, and yet they're not often documented as some of the other resistance movements from other parts of Europe, like the French, the Polish, and the Yugoslavs and the Greeks. They're far more documented, and sometimes exaggerated because of the movies.
well, I'm pretty sure literally everything you did in Battlefield 5 was very exaggerated.
Yeah, and and then there's chapter 4, where you play as the Senegalese French colonial troops to go to southern France, Provence region, not far from Marseille, where you, where like they were once a for a brief time. I'm like, oh, so I'm playing as this segregated unit because the French themselves, like, they don't see much in colonial troops until
Because they're fucking racist.
yeah, until they're like, okay, you know what, we're gonna put you up there in the front line, so have at it. That's what the French.
So let's reenact the movie Glory, starring Matthew Broderick and Denzel Washington.
Hell of a Civil War movie.
Well, yeah, that's fine, but actual history versus video game.
Yeah, and also we don't often hear too much from colonial troops, not just the French, but all the other ones too. Only the British get a lot of attention, particularly the Indians and other parts of Africa.
Well, there in Battlefield 1, to be fair, it was a different war, but it had that whole Australian bit in Gibraltar.
Yeah, Gallipoli.
Gallipoli, excuse me, I said the wrong thing in the wrong place. But yeah,
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to see that from a French perspective of things. And yet, it was a story about this one guy who was like, "Hey, don't go rushing," and he's like, "Come on, let's do it for the glory of France," even though we never seen this land that is supposedly our homeland.
even though this place that we are basically paid slaves to,
Yeah, that
indentured servants, I guess is a better word.
yeah, that's what the main protagonist you play as is like. It's just he fights for
It,
glory.
it, it, it would be like, this is not the best comparison, playing an American in the French and Indian War. It's like you're not actually involved, but you're fodder for the British.
My only knowledge of the French Indian War, at least portrayed in media, was from the background of the Patriot, Mel Gibson's character, that he
Yeah,
took part of it.
well, yeah, but that's my point. It's like the Americans are not a big deal in that because it's always England versus France. Well, the Senegalese are not a big deal in World War II because it's France and England versus Germany slash Italy.
Yeah. And in that last chapter, which they called it the Last Tiger, where you plays the Germans for once, another different
Ooh,
perspective.
what a switch!
Yeah. Um, whereas I was hoping they did end Battlefield 1 where you play as one of the Central Powers factions, but they,
No, they lack the balls that they had in the fucking first Medal of Honor reboot game. I don't know. Actually, was it Warfighter where you played as the Arabs?
I
I
don't,
think it was Warfighter.
I don't remember, but I do recall you played as a bad guy for a brief time.
I think it was Warfighter. Bad guy, quote unquote, air quotes.
Yeah, just in quote because it wasn't trying to be generalizing. It's just either that or antagonist.
It's very. We've mentioned this before about the Medal of Honor franchise, but they tried to do something different. Didn't sell. So like, well, fuck difference. Let's just give them what they keep doing the same thing over and over and over. I put a ton of time. I don't want to talk about this Final War story because I didn't play it,
Yeah,
and they're dumb and bad, and I don't care. I put a lot of time in Battlefield 1, and most of that is in multiplayer, obviously. And that's mostly because of playing with my good buddy Rob. And we did a lot of conquest and a lot of the other game mode that's basically conquest, and a couple of pigeon chasing and a little bit of team deathmatch. And I am not good at online first-person shooters, but I put a lot of time into it, and there was a lot of fun to be had. I don't even remember when or how I started playing Battlefield 5, but I figured out very early on, it's like, I don't like this. And it wasn't that I liked Battlefield 1 better, it was that I didn't like first-person shooter multiplayer anymore.
Huh. Yeah, you become disenchanted. That was the word you used in a previous podcast.
Yeah, but like, yes, it really is disenchantment because I have not played a Call of Duty. We'll talk about Cold War in a minute here. I have not played a Call of Duty since Advanced Warfare, and that's because it came with this here Xbox. Uh, in the brief time I don't even know if I owned Battlefield 5. I think I had it on EA Access or something.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't do enough of the war stories to finish it. I didn't play enough multiplayer to finish it. I was like, man, I just don't give a fuck anymore about this because it's just like GTA. If you don't put time into it, your skill set is going to diminish, and you can't crawl your way back without serious work. And I play too many games. The amount of games you play in a week, I play in like 3 days. I don't have the time. I do have the time. I don't want to make the time to get good at first person shooters anymore. I'm not a teenager where I give a fuck about my kill death ratio. I don't care about the weekly challenges. I don't care about the daily challenges. I don't give a shit about gun camo. I don't want to play online shooters anymore. So let's talk about another online shooter.
Uh, yeah, as I said, we'll just skip over the last Tiger. There isn't much to speak about it. I mean, again, but then again, they weren't really portrayed as hardcore Nazis. They're just guys in the
Well,
Wehrmacht.
of course not. You can't sell that. You can't. EA Dice is what? Polish? Are they Polish?
Swedish.
Swedish. You can't sell that to your audience. You can't say, okay, we're going to play as the Nazis, but it's okay because they're like worried about being Nazis. They don't really want to be Nazis. Oh, isn't that deep? Fuck
Yeah,
off. We've
yeah,
seen enough of that media.
yeah. But those guys are portrayed in that story is just one guy's by the book, and then here's this young guy's is almost like his first day on a job, even though it's at war's end.
He's a
And
Hitler Youth.
yeah, and these guys like they see these deserted Germans, which they were like, it's like cowards. Come on, let's go kill some Americans. One last shot of glory. Um, that's what they were like. Some are more UFO enthusiasm, while the old guy who takes command of the thing, he's basically seen it all, from North Africa all the way to the end. He's seen it all.
Whoop-de-doo. War is hell. Thanks. Now from war is hell to war is a hell of a lot of fun. The other side of this dumbass shooter coin, propaganda, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, which you told me several months ago you were not getting, and then you were like, okay, I think I've decided to get it day one.
Yeah, it took years. All right, my last Call of Duty was Black Ops 3, which the multiplayer was just nuts. I mean, yeah, I did montages of it on YouTube and whatnot, um, you once told me that the Black Ops 3 campaign is the worst of all of the Call of Duty campaigns you've played.
It's the fucking dirt worst. It's worse than Battlefield 4, which is bad. It's worse than Battlefront 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2, which is bad.
So, but
It is.
even the unfinished Battlefield 5 campaign for you.
It's yes, the unfinished Battlefield 5 campaign that I didn't bother to finish is better than Black Ops 3.
That's a horrible statement. But anyway,
It's that bad.
anyway,
So is the Cold War campaign better, considering you have digital zombie Reagan?
hang on there. There's
Ah,
digital zombie Reagan.
well, I call him zombie Reagan. It's just digital
Yeah.
Reagan
Oh,
because he's dead. You see.
anyways, so I skipped over how many Call of Duties I skip over? Like, just help me with it. Like, if
Just
I get
two,
them correct.
like two.
So I skipped over Advanced Warfighter or Warfare.
Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 4,
There's
World War II, which you thought would have been right up your alley because like, oh, we're getting back to the roots of Call of Duty. World War II. All right, we're done.
I skipped over that because again, that was when the demand for videos of grand strategy games was at an all-time high. Back in 2018-19. Yeah, it was king for me. But then there was the Modern Warfare Remastered, and then the remake.
Oh yeah, even I forgot about that one. There's been a Call of Duty every year since 2007. We are now in 2020. 13 straight fucking years of Call of Duty without missing a beat. And every year there's the same. You give your impressions on Cold War before I give myself another headache.
Yeah, Cold War. And again, it's just one day. yeah, one day that I was doing my usual stick, GTA 5, Red Dead, Elder Scrolls Online, until I saw this thing advertising that says Cold War Open Beta. I'm like, and then it's free. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try. And well, skill wise, like every other first person shooter I played, didn't miss a beat. I still got it. And started with playing with friends. I still got it.
Well,
To the point where I produced a montage.
it's not like you gave up like me. You were still playing Battlefield 5 and Battlefront
Hmm.
2.
Forgot about
So
that.
it's not like you completely stopped playing first-person shooters online.
It's in my blood.
What about the campaign, the story, Digital Reagan?
The campaign, well, I'm going to be honest with you, I have not finished it yet. It's still in progress. I don't know what percentage I'm done, but I know it's still not done. But I can tell you by impressions that when did they started doing this part of the Call of Duty campaign where it branches off to side missions? No, that was Black Ops 2. They started doing it, branching off the little side bits. Yeah, that, and also you gotta collect puzzles in order to unlock certain things that may help you on the side missions. As in, you gotta identify 3 key people for you to capture or kill. And when did they start doing that? Where the decisions you make in the middle of a mission, where it's dialogue
That was
choices, you don't speak. It's dialogue choices.
Cold War. I was gonna say there are, occasional non in mission choices in Black Ops 2, but that was the only time they ever did that. And I actually really enjoyed that. I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, Black Ops 1 is better." It's like, man, shut up. 2 is better. Is a better game because it gives you more narrative control. It's minimal narrative control, but it is more than they ever had. So
Yeah.
if Cold War gives you more, good.
So yeah. And by the way, I mentioned about your character doesn't speak. Yeah, it's another one of them silent protagonists. How original. But
You play as Mason and/or Woods. All they do
oh,
is
and
yap.
sometimes they do. And Woods is a bad mouthed mother, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a very foul-mouthed dude.
Uh,
It's also very strange that it is in fact a sequel to Black Ops, which came out in what 2009,
yeah. Took place in the
but
1960s.
not a sequel to Black Ops 2. It is
Mm-mm.
a prequel to Black Ops 2.
Yeah, in which I found out by then it's like, so Woods is around this, and of course he survived the 80s. So that means
Yeah.
in that timeline of 2025 Black Ops 2, Woods is 90 freaking 5. And he's still swearing like
They
a
did
sailor.
not they did not think very hard in the future versions of that game.
Well, they did add the bios of each of these characters. So that's the reason why I know the ages.
It is another thing weird. Like the Modern Warfare campaign has a Captain Price with his big old mustache, and the occasional recurring side characters. But the Black Ops series, for some ass reason, keeps having these same dudes pop up. It's like, oh, it's Mason and it's Woods and it's the other guy whose name I can't remember with glasses. You know,
Yeah, he's still around to a
what's his
degree.
name?
Oh, Weevil.
Huh?
Weevil. That's his call name. Call sign. Nom de guerre, whatever.
No, his fucking character's name.
Wait a minute, who are we talking about here?
The guy with the big old glasses who looked like that actor. Ed, what's his name?
Yeah, I Ed Harris?
Yeah, it looks like Ed Harris because it was Ed Harris in Black Ops, but then it's not anymore. What's his name?
Yeah. Again, I just keep saying that, but that's all I remember. Otherwise, are you going to be at, like, the numbers, Mason? The numbers,
Yes,
Thomas.
that guy. Yeah, that guy. What was his name? That guy who said that.
I already told you his name, but I don't remember the full
Hudson.
name.
Fuck you. I remember Hudson.
Oh, Hudson. Yeah. I don't know what made me think of Weevil. I must be thinking of someone else completely different.
Oh my god. Any fucking ways. Is it fun at least?
And oh, and by the way, it has a little bit of character creation, not necessarily appearance, but your bio description. Your character in the campaign goes by the call sign name or nom de guerre as Bell, as in ding 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 Bell.
Okay.
And although it's optional for you to pick your first and last name, otherwise you just leave it at blank and it'll just say classified. Even at the beginning of each mission, that says like classified, classified, build, classified, classified, classified. Um,
Classified. We blew up an entire airfield, but nobody knew because we covered it up. What? No, you didn't.
and also, if you wish to choose furthermore of your background of what you are actually, like are you male, are you female, or are you non-binary, which is a thing they added.
Hey, it wasn't in the 80s.
Um, And also, are you former CIA? Are you former MI6? Are you former KGB? I picked former KGB just to have
What the
interesting
fuck?
dialogue choices.
What are you doing working for the American CIA? It's not a fucking Ian Fleming novel.
Yeah, they did this. I did this one mission. No, I had. You can have dialogue with each of these characters here before you start the next mission. They do that. Where I had this guy. It's like, hey, you were in a KGB. So it's like, what do you know about it? What do you remember? But the only dialogue choice I had is like, basically like, I don't remember. And he's like, must be a different life then. So glad you're with us.
It's like, I don't know. We only captured that one guy sitting over there. We captured him and tortured him for a lot of years and reprogrammed his brain. Yeah, whatever.
So again, the campaign's still in progress for me. So for the fun of it, well, I guess to a degree, maybe dialogue, yes, including some of the choices you make.
But Call of Duty has always, since 2007, been a Call of Duty game. Like you're gonna do a vehicle mission, you're gonna do a sneaky mission, you're gonna do a mission where it's like, all right, everybody needs to be silent. Oh no, 1 million explosions.
And a couple of few unexpected moments that just threw me off slightly, but more so to, the other character, where he tells me, not a fucking word. That's Woods.
I presume. And presumably you play as a scrub and you die in first person because there's nothing Call of Duty loves to do to you.
Hasn't happened yet.
Uh, well, we'll see. I'm willing to bet Bell dies at the end. In the very, I'm guessing. I have no fucking clue.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll learn more about the Bell.
Is the multiplayer fun? The important part.
The beta, yes, I had plenty of fun with it despite its limitations. And then now that that's the reason why I produced the montage. As for the multiplayer today, and they added a season one pass for even more
Uh,
content. They've been doing that
Seasonal
lately, have they?
content. Every game does.
So multiplayer, well, if you're good skillfully, yes. But the gameplay, game mode I often play in are those big mapped, large number of players ones because it
Like
feels
it's
right at home.
Battlefield.
Yes, it feels right at home. Even sometimes they give you a mixture. Oh, and by the way, you can adjust the playlists of what game modes you're going to be playing. Like you just can't play team deathmatch all the time if you're willing to choose or mix it up where you have team deathmatch active, you have hardpoint, headquarters, domination active, so you get a mixed bag of these. If
Do you ever play zombies or you don't bother?
Yes, I did play some zombies with friends.
I assume it's the same as it's always been.
Sort of, based on what I remember, because the last zombies game mode that I've played purely was from Black Ops 2.
Well, they don't change them much. It's like, all right, stand here and shoot 100 of these dudes. All right, now go stand over here and shoot 100 of these dudes.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, and it
I
leads to
think
more.
I
Oh,
can't recall.
zombies is way tougher nowadays. Um, Especially when they added these big old juggernaut berserker-like things out there. That
And they
that
had like
that takes a lot more
narrative
rounds to
stories to
kill.
this. And they had like narrative stories to the zombies campaign. It's like fucking why? What is this? Left
Yeah,
4 Dead again?
yeah, a little bit of it, except with the characters that you selected from multiplayer, even if it's from the story mode for both sides, both NATO and Warsaw Pact.
Okay, please bear in mind that if I dislike this segment, I may cut it in its entirety. So, what was the last thing you wanted to talk about?
Horde zombie mode in games in general. You had
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It sucks and I don't like it. This goes all the way back. Gears of War did not invent this. I think Gears of War 2. Maybe it was 3. Who fucking knows? 2.
well, we did 2 and 3 back then. Not
They,
campaigns,
they,
the
had,
hordes.
they had this idea. They had this idea that you had to fortify a position. You stay in one spot, and then waves of dudes come at you from every side, and you have to survive X number of waves. And that was okay for a while until you do it a bunch, and then it's boring.
Yeah, it becomes work, a chore.
Yes, it does become work. And then in other games like Left 4 Dead and every Left 4 Dead clone, which I don't have time to talk about here, it is you traveling from place to place. We're fighting a million dudes. It's like, and then every so often you have to stop and like fight another million dudes, and then you walk 40 feet and fight another million dudes. And it's always zombies. They don't have any other ideas. You don't fight hordes of like rabid dogs. You don't fight giant fucking rats with swords. It's just zombie after zombie after zombie after zombie. I mentioned that because there's those Warhammer games, which is just Left 4 Dead again. Everything's a fucking Left 4 Dead clone. I don't find Left 4 Dead fun. I rented it when it first came out in the late 2000s, 2007, 2009, whenever the fuck those games came out. And Nick had a lot more fun. Our other brother Nick had a lot more fun. Our other friends had more fun. And I was just like, man, this is just boring as hell.
They got a different mentality.
I guess, but like there is a small degree of fun to be had for a while, but then it becomes overwhelming to the point of it's taxing and is no longer fun. That's just my thought.
Yeah, that's how I felt at least after round 10 of Call of Duty World at War Zombies.
Christ, and
World
how
at War
many
Zombies?
hours?
Excuse me, Cold War Zombies. Sorry, World at War. Which, by the way, over 400,000 views. My most viewed video from that old game.
Of which you have no player audio.
No.
Yeah, but how many hours is 10 rounds? How long did it take you to get there?
Well, it's not ours. I mean, the highest round I've ever gotten, which sounds, man, ironic. I don't know if that's the proper term. The highest round I ever gotten in Cold War Zombies was 24. One round short of reaching 25, which is the amount of rounds I got in the old World at War Zombies I did.
Yes, but how long did that take?
An hour and 30.
Fuck, I couldn't do it.
And
I
also,
didn't
and
like
some,
playing.
and with friends, sometimes they just leave the last zombie alive on purpose. It's like, okay, I need to get this, and let me drink this, and let me get this gun, have pack a punch, and all that before we kill the last one. Then round, whatever. It's their strategy, and I just go with it.
For all the time I put in Battlefield 1, I always hated when Rob wanted to play Operations because, like, oh my god, it just takes so long. I have a set amount of patience for anything I do. Even if a thing is fun, there's going to become a certain point where it is no longer fun. And I am well aware of what that point is. I can't tell you what it is, but I feel it coming. I feel there's a turning point about to happen where I'm going to get bored. Here it comes. We better stop, guys, because I'm about to get bored. We should stop. Let's stop playing. Oh, they kept playing. Oh, we're still playing. Oh, we're still playing. Still playing.
Yeah, you run on a
Part of
tight schedule.
no, maybe my brain does. It's not like I don't have infinite time because I really do. I detest doing repetitive actions that are not fun or have a variety. Like Dying Light is a really good zombie game.
I played a
Even though
demo of it. I had such good memories.
Dying Light is a really good zombie game because it's narrative. It's got a lot of it takes the basic what the fuck was that other shitty ass game they made before Dying Light? Dead Island gameplay, but makes it, fun and refines it and gives you parkour and movement and narrative freedom. And that's good. But something like, just throwing this out there, World War Z, where it's just Left 4 Dead again, but in third person. It's like you move point to point. Okay, everybody got to stop, set up traps. Oh no, here's a million zombies. Like, goddamn, this is so boring. And it's the same thing in like by we I mean OG Internet's worst. Me, Joe Stizzy, and Rob have been playing Destiny 2 again, and that's fine when we're doing all the narrative stuff in campaign. But when we want to do multiplayer, it's like, okay, we're gonna lose, and we're gonna lose by a lot. We need to understand that, and once you accept that, it's okay. And then there comes a certain point, it's like, okay, I'm bored now. We need to stop playing. But Rob has this, no, just one more thing in him all the time, which I'm sure is very commendable. It's very good for him to have that in his real life. It's not good for me to be in a party with him when he wants to do the just one more, because too nice of a dick to say, I'm too nice of a guy to be a dick to say, nah, fuck you, I'm leaving. So he still plays a lot of Battlefield 5, even though, whatever the issues are. Pretty sure he still plays Battlefield 1. But I can't stand it anymore, man. I just like, I'm okay with losing. I'm okay with sucking. I'm okay with doing the same thing over and over to a point of all those things. At a certain point, it tips over into unfun territory. And if a video game becomes ever unfun, I stop playing it. I do not play games I do not have fun with.
I guess for me, it's just, well, as you mentioned, games like these, every single one of them has an expiration date, so I can't stick with it forever.
Yeah, but that's personal because you've suddenly you over the last couple of years have decided to start a YouTube channel where you have to produce content for these sort of things. And you're like, well, that's enough content for this game. Next game. So that's partially, a personal issue with you.
Yeah, and also during these times that we live in, there's a
These
greater demand
precedent
for content where I feel
these
like I
precedented times.
record every damn day because there's going to be people out there who are sitting there doing nothing, and I got to keep posting crap for them.
I know, you really don't have to.
Well, I mentioned Bosnian Thieves at the early start. There are two ongoing series concurrently, but in separate days we post them. Don't want to overload it.
It's neither here nor there.
And also,
Anyways,
one more thing about the hordes and zombies thing. My very first exposure of that kind was Halo Reach with Firefight. Wasn't that similar?
yeah, except you could tweak the settings so that we were basically unkillable monsters.
Yeah, we did that once for whatever reason.
Also, there was a very long period of my life where I loved everything about Halo, and even though I hated
Oh,
Reach's story at,
sorry, I
all
dropped
right,
something. Keep going.
even though I hated Reach's story at the time, I did still really enjoy the multiplayer, and the firefight thing was just horde mode again, but it was Halo, and Halo used to be really cool, and now it kind of sucks for me.
Yeah, I thought they were the ones that started the whole horde mode.
The actual term comes from Gears of War 2,
Yeah.
where you fight 50 waves of Covenant. No, that's Halo. 50 waves of Locust, and you fortify a position, and then at some point, I think during Gears of War Judgment, they're like, okay, now we introduce a payment structure to this, where you kill X number of Locusts, and now you get 500 Gears Fun Bucks. Okay, now with these 500 Gears Fun Bucks, you can fortify one turret or buy two guns. Oh God. And that became, Call of Duty Zombies. It's like, okay, you killed 10 zombies. That gives you $100. With $100, you can fortify a door or roll dice and get one crappy pistol.
Or pack a punch it.
Yeah, where you just get really strong melee. Because that's what you want to do is melee is a thing that kills you up close.
Yeah, can't do that today since they added tougher zombies out there, as I mentioned.
Zombies with guns. If I
Yeah,
wanted
why
to
haven't
fight,
we
how
had
about
that yet?
we do? It's called Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, Resident Evil are much better zombie games than any other damn horde game.
And yet they say, why don't they make Resident Evil scary? But then again, that's a whole nother podcast.
I'll tell you why. Because then no one would play it.
It's almost like, does survival horror need to be pure horror?
No, it needs to be fun to play. You know what's not fun to play? Sorry, Joe Stizzy. Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, and 0. Those are not fun. You know what is fun? 4, 5, 6, Revelations, Revelations 2, 7, and potentially 8. Do you know why?
Hmm?
Because they're not survival horror.
Yeah, it's a lot more than that. But then again, I only played 4 way back on the GameCube. Anyway, I believe that was one of the first games that I once beat the game on in a single day in a period of 6 hours. But then again, that was when we used to do a lot of cheats.
Well, the game, well, action replay was a thing then. It's not really a thing now. With the advent of trophies and achievements. Many damn ways. This show has already gone longer than I wanted it to. What's your last thing?
So, I know we've talked mostly about gaming, but now let's talk a little bit of film. Um,
Well, we do. This is like a 20% movie podcast.
Basically, like we've mentioned all the big time movies and the lesser known movies from India and whatnot to some area
They're all lesser known to me.
yeah, here in the Western world. But since the podcast that I've watched, a few interesting. Well, what do you mean interesting? They're American classics in their own way, such as Forrest Gump, and also watched all of the Godfather trilogy in 3 different days.
I think everything you just said is very overrated.
So it's like if I say American classic, you say overrated.
No, I think Forrest Gump is very overrated, and I think the Godfather movies are unbearably overrated.
Maybe the first two.
I'll give you the first one, and like cut an hour from it. That's the other thing about those fucking Ford Coppola movies. They're like hours longer than they need to be because he's up himself.
Yeah. The only other French Ford Coppola movie I've seen was The Departed, but that was when the interest of Irish mob and relating
I'm
to
pretty
the
sure.
Peaky
I'm pretty
Blinders.
sure that's Martin Scorsese.
Oh shit! They had a similar.
Yes, I know. They're both up themselves. You're right. Yes.
Yeah.
They're both pretentious shitbags. Yes. That's where you've got them confused.
Yeah. And earlier, before this we recorded this podcast, as I was scrolling through the Twitter feed, saw a picture of the Titanic, and I'm like, why do so many people love that movie? I never seen it, so I'm not, gonna say too much anything about that.
Pretty boy. Leo DiCaprio.
Of course. I mean, I have all the respect in the world for him for what he's done, but still, it's
Yeah,
just
but in
that it's the one movie that
1997.
yeah, but it's
Yeah,
the
but in
one
1997, he was a fucking little pretty boy. That's the answer.
yeah, that's the one movie that people go back to. Um, and even though we've seen earlier works featuring him before Titanic, before he got big,
Yeah, when he was on Growing Pains, when he played the son of an alcoholic, wasn't that lovely?
he was on Growing Pains.
Yes.
The only other role I could think of what he was on prior to Titanic was on The Quick and the Dead,
Yeah, except that's a fun movie, and Titanic is not a fun movie.
and also the other noted movies. Try to think of what I've seen. Well, two of them I could think of are from India, but I'm not going to really get descriptive of names because, I mean, I know one that's easy to pronounce, which is in Tamil, and that's Marcel, and the other one is in Marathi, and I can't really pronounce that because I'm not familiar with that language.
That's fine. You don't need to.
But that was due to that particular film. That was due to the interest of doing the Indian series for Crusader Kings 3 at that time, so I needed reference. But also, there were some not so stellar or shitty movies that I've seen as of late. And worst of all, I've seen this year, on this calendar year, was from 20 years ago, which I even doubt you heard of movies, because you don't watch shitty movies on purpose.
No, I don't watch good movies on purpose either, to be fair.
Have you ever heard of Backyard Dogs?
Is that the TV show where those two 50-year-old guys go into old houses and try to salvage wood?
What the hell?
So no,
Oh, hell no, that's totally different.
then no.
Backyard Dogs is well, it's a backyard wrestling movie.
Yeah, let's send this. Like you just described that, and I was like, oh, so it has a budget of $20 and is not worth talking about, but you insisted on talking about it, so I'm allowing you this platform.
Well, it's all about two best friends with dreams of becoming pro wrestlers, but they have to start wrestling in underground backyard events. And at the beginning of the movie, they say in 1998 there were 2,000 backyard federations in the United States. And then here in 2000, there are 20,000 more of the backyard wrestling federations throughout the U.S. Which sounds
I'd
a
like
lot
to see
like
some
bullshit.
certifications on those numbers.
But anyways, and as far as the cast is concerned, there was only like two real wrestlers that were in them. We mean real professional wrestlers, not professional backyard wrestlers.
There's no such thing as professional backyard wrestler.
But it does star the guy who played as the original Black Power Ranger.
Yikes.
Yeah, he was in it. Walter Emmanuel Jones, that's his name.
You don't need to tell me, I'll never remember.
So yeah, and I even recall, even when some other famous YouTuber that actually reviewed this movie, that somebody on the comments, which again I'm not going to name names on that particular YouTuber who reviews such things.
Good, because we're not promoting anyone else but ourselves.
Yeah, where I saw the comment where one guy says there was for a period of time that this particular film, Backyard Dogs, was actually the lowest rated movie on IMDb.
What replaced it?
I don't know. I just probably have to look it up on if I could steal your phrase, dirt worst of them all.
Well, I don't want to watch bad movies. Like, if you're like, Loki, you've got to watch this movie. It's really good. I'm like, okay, let me have a look here. 2.5 hours. Go fuck yourself. And then you're like, Loki, you got to watch this movie. It's only 80 minutes long. And I'm like, this looks like dog shit. I don't want to. And your description of this has turned me off from it so heavily.
Yeah, that's way too much description for this.
You had some other damned thing you wanted to talk about?
No, that's all I got. Other than we know what's coming up on the YouTube channel, such as these 2 ongoing series with Thebes
And
and
where can listeners find you on YouTube?
at the L0rd Masta channel, the L0rd Masta YouTube channel.
Provide a link yet again in the description.
Yeah. So Thebes, Bosnia, Athens upcoming for the Marius series, and what comes after Bosnia for Crusader Kings 3 into the future? Well, around by the time it's posted, whenever this video is posted, I will put up a poll in my YouTube channel where I will play as yet another minority culture. But those are going to be 5 choices in the poll, which I'll just say it here, um, which you'll see a future playthrough of that. It's one of those 5. I would either be playing as the Avars, which is of a they're kind of related to the Turkic peoples, but they live in modern-day Hungary, in the lands of Avaria, later Pannonia, later, as we know today, as Hungary. Um, Second choice is Karelian, which is another minority culture that lives in parts of Finland and Russia in the region of Karelia. And the other is the Sami, the Europe's only indigenous people left in the world. They live in the far north of Scandinavia. They don't have a country of their own, but they're still out there. They're kind of like the Eskimos, but they live in northern Scandinavia because they like to herd reindeer and stuff. And the other choice that I also have is the Sogdians, which we know them very well.
Yeah, you talked about them a lot.
And the fifth and final choice are the Prussians, not the German Prussians that everybody mistakes them of, but the old Prussians, Baltic tribe that are related to the Lithuanians and the Latvians. They're the ones that, well, they were existed tribe, and then the Germans came and took their name.
Yeah, that's kind of a thing Germany did for a very long time. And also England and France, to be fair, and Italy and Spain. I had something else for this, and then you went on with a list of names. You're not on social media as L0rd Masta, so let's not put that out there.
Well, actually, there is one, but I'm not going to put it out there. It's not Instagram, it's not Twitter, it's not Facebook. It's just some different website that is less about social and more about bullshit.
So Twitter, because that's all about bullshit. You find me on Twitter at Loki Jarson, spelled exactly like it sounds. Is that it? I think that's it.
Yes, sir. Well,
Terrific. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.